If I worked at the FBI and I heard this for the first time, I'd probably run a background check. I mean, the whole thing just like inducted me right into the cult. This is what started it for me. This is Double Negative. 2 Double Negative records, actually. He doesn't like the term ambient. He doesn't like the concept that there is this capitalist music being used for productivity. I'm always searching for new music, and then I find something, I love it, and I'm like burdened with like the deep impulse to buy it and have it now.
Hey, Patrick here. Welcome to another episode of Record Rooms. This is a show where I interview record collectors in their record rooms. On today's episode, I'm talking to Paul Miller. Paul is the Senior VP of Precision Record Pressing in Toronto. If you're a record collector, pretty good chance you have something that Precision has made on your shelf. I have plenty. This episode is a little bit different from sort of your average Record Rooms interview because I really wanted to pick Paul's brain about like the record industry at large. And we talk about his collection, we talk about his taste. Paul has a really eclectic interest in ambient and experimental records as well as hardcore punk. It's kind of a funny dichotomy. Much like my policy on drum machines and my adoration for Devo, this life is full of contradictions. Ambient and experimental records are pretty foreign to me, so I had Paul leave me some breadcrumbs to kind of like take me a little bit deeper down the hole. One of my favorite parts about making this series is simply just like learning about what other people like, and this interview did exactly that. Paul was there when record plants were shutting down regularly. He was there when new machines were finally reintroduced to the supply chain, and he's still here now that you can walk into your local Walmart or whatever and buy a brand new album. Love it or hate it, the masses are buying records again, and I wanted to hear Paul's insight. If you wouldn't mind dropping a comment or a like and subscribe, those things really help me grow, they go a long way. And if you enjoy this interview and you want a little bit more, there's an extended cut on my Patreon. It has about 12 extra minutes on there. It's also ad-free. Membership starts at just $2 a month, and it automatically includes you into the rare record raffle that I do. So in just a few days, I'm going to be giving away this first press Spiritual Healing by Death. I don't think Paul would like this very much, but I do think he would like my next month's giveaway record, which is this Japanese press Man Machine by Kraftwerk. And I have a feeling he might also like the month after that, which is Karma by Pharoah Sanders. After that, it's going to be I Should Cocoa by Supergrass. All of these are first or very early pressings, and I even cover shipping to the winner. Precision was also cool enough to put together a discount code for my audience. If you are in a band or you run a record label or maybe you just want to start something, Precision is offering $100 off your next project with them if you use the coupon code RECORDROOMS100. Okay, and with that, let's jump right in. This is Record Rooms with Paul Miller.
I'm Paul Miller. I'm the Senior Vice President of Precision Record Pressing, which is a vinyl manufacturing plant in Burlington, Oakville, and Toronto. I started collecting in the mid-90s, and I even remember the first record that I bought, which we'll talk about. But yeah, I mean, I was buying CDs as a kid, a lot of punk rock records, and vinyl was definitely something that, you know, I was able to explore more as I got more into punk. So I would say like mid-90s, but really by the early 2000s is when I genuinely started collecting. Punk and hardcore was the sort of genesis of it. But as my taste expanded and I started looking for that, you know, type of feeling in other styles of music, like funk and soul, hip hop, eventually I started collecting a lot more ambient and experimental records, probably around like, I don't know, I would say the last 5 to 10 years has been more focused in that type of genre.
I was expecting maybe a longer timeline there because I remember one time when I picked up records from you back in the same old days.
Yeah.
You were like, the line that you said to me that I still remember was you were just like, oh yeah, I'm just hanging out listening to my bummer jams.
That must have been a sad day.
I guess so. And every once in a while I'm like, oh, like this is a bummer jam.
Oh, bummer jam.
When I come across in the wild, I'm like, oh, it's a bummer jam.
Well, I'm glad you remember that. Now I need to pick that back up again. I've got some bummer jams, some pretty good ones.
Yeah.
You know, I said I started collecting in 95. This was the first record I ever bought.
It's a shame that you did all you did.
And I remember I had And Out Come the Wolves by Rancid on CD in my hands, and I wandered over to the vinyl section, and I bought this on a whim. This was such a great record to start with because, first of all, it's a double LP with a printed inner sleeve. One of the albums was a translucent green, which I didn't know was possible, you know? This LP is black, but it has like full-side etching on it, which totally knocked me out. I mean, the fact that you could also include like artwork etched on the on the surface of a disc, and there's music on this, like not on this side, but on this side. I mean, the whole thing just like inducted me right into the cult. This is what started it for me. This is a 1991 pressing of You Think You Really Know Me by Gary Wilson.
Hey, foolish heart, you're keeping me away. Hey.
People who know me will have predicted that I selected this record to talk about. I was deeply obsessed with it for a period of time. It's quite a formative album for me. The way that I have described this record in the past, if Elvis Costello was suffering from paranoid delusions while yelping like James Brown.
You've piqued my interest. I'm not familiar with this, but
Oh, really?
I'll check it out based on that, yeah?
Well, like the music is kind of sometimes even a little goofy sounding, and it contrasts really oddly with some deeply disturbing lyrics. Like if I worked at the FBI and I heard this for the first time, I'd probably run a background check. Like there may be people locked in his basement, you know? He made this record in the late 70s and was convinced that it was going to be a hit, you know, shopped it around to all the labels. They all said no. They might have even locked the door as he was leaving. You know, a lot of the photos, for some reason, he's like wrapped in tape across his face, like masking tape or electrical tape, and he's always wearing sunglasses. He disappeared for a long time after realizing that music was not going to be a career. There's a documentary about finding Gary Wilson, and he, I think, was like working at like an adult theater, playing lounge music on the side, and, you know, was approached like, did you know you're a cult figure? And he goes, really? Well, I guess I should start making music again. So,
So did he?
yeah, Stone's Throw Records put out some of his newer LPs.
Oh, wow.
But this is the one. He has this phrase that he uses several times on the album, sick trip, where he's like, what are you trying to do? Put me on a sick trip or something? And you're like, what are you talking about?
What are you trying to do to me? Put me on a sick trip or something? You know something? I don't kiss on my first day.
I really started in vinyl, like, I guess, professionally in the early 2000s. I was working at a broker for CD pressing in the very late 90s, like when I was in high school. A new company started called Samo. It was supposed to keep doing CDs, but I was just getting more interested in vinyl around that time. So I asked if I would be allowed to go and try and explore that. So yeah, I think like my vinyl journey, I guess, like really kind of, I think, was kicked off with that. As I was getting more and more into that world. Like it was born from collecting and an interest in it, and then, you know, sort of jumped into my work life. And yeah, I think the collecting kind of like really picked up around like 2005 or so because of that. Now it's like a mainstream industry, but, you know, back then it was a little shadow of the physical media world. There was one vinyl record pressing plant in Canada. They were called Acme Vinyl in Markham, about like 45 minutes from here. And like, you know, like from there, I just really started to, I didn't know what I was doing. You know, I was just wandering around in the dark, trying to figure out how vinyl was made. Fast forward to like 2015, which is when Precision started, the plant that I work at. And now there's actually about 5 plants in Canada. So it's interesting to see it, you know, it's from the smoldering wreckage of like when vinyl records, I guess, crashed in the public consciousness.
Yeah.
You know, how it's managed to rebuild itself.
Yes, yeah. I mean, especially like if you collect 90s records, they're always so expensive because,
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you've come across it at some point, but it'll be like, pick a 90s band, let's say Smashing Pumpkins or something. They like the CD sold 20 million copies, and then they pressed 1,000 LPs, and they're like, that's plenty, that's enough.
Right.
And then it didn't get repressed for 15, 20 years in a lot of those cases. And so people who chase 90s stuff tend to, in my experience, spend like as much money as people who chase like 60s and 70s stuff.
Yeah, that's really interesting, right? Because that is really kind of, I guess, the gap. You know, we had sort of gotten to a place where it was like no new record presses were made in like 30 years or so. So it was hard to start a vinyl plant.
Well, you
And
were
so
just
therefore,
repairing
like,
the old machines, right?
Well, yeah, and that was always the thing. It was that these plants would go under, and then the machines would end up in receivership somewhere, and then some enterprising individual with a love of vinyl would give it a go. And it was hard because these machines were cranky, they were worn down, and the people with experience were like aging out, they were retiring, right? So goes the story of like all this old equipment from the original era. And now almost everyone is using presses that have been designed and built in the last 10 years or so.
Right, so they're manufacturing them again.
They are.
Which opens up a lot of opportunity for the manufacturing to come back.
Exactly right. Okay, so this is double negative, 2 double negative records actually. And these kind of like also tie back to my work in record pressing. We did some punk rock, but I mean, not enough for my taste. Like I really wanted to make like hardcore records or like work with hardcore labels. So I reached out to so many of them on my third desperate attempt to try and work with No Way Records, which was run by Brandon Farrell, who sadly passed away some years ago. He finally gave me a chance, and we didn't do this record together. This record is The Wonderful and Frightening World of Double Negative, which is a take on a Fall album title. You know, we did some other No Way stuff, and then he told everybody. You know, he told Daniel from Sorry State, Alex from Grave Mistake, Gord from Deranged, who like later would go on to work with me at Samo.
That's like the holy trinity of hardcore labels
for
from
sure.
that era, right?
Yes, yeah, I know. Suddenly I was just, you know, able to be involved in records that I was really excited about. I was excited about other things, but, you know, so Daniel from Sorry State, after doing a few LPs, told me that the new Double Negative was coming. And I was really excited because, you know, this first LP, it just sounds like a blast as soon as it starts. It has such a force behind it. And, you know, the vocals are like not tough. They're almost a little like whiny, and the riffs are really kind of off the wall. Like there's something special and creative about this. And so when he told me that we were going to be making the new Double Negative together, like I couldn't believe it. And so I heard the digital master for the first time and was like floored. Like it was like they expanded their world by like 100% in terms of the creativity of the riffs and everything. A reason why this LP is so important to me too is because of the packaging. Like this jacket is a silver foil laminated jacket with like a hot pink Pantone for the logo. And there's something called white bumps underneath this Pantone so that it's printing on white instead of silver to really make it pop. Oh, and it's embossed on the back. Not only was this an LP that I was really excited about musically, but this was maybe the most creative packaging that I had made or been involved in at the time.
A lot of the narrative, at least what you read online or in the news or whatever, if the headlines come out, it's more about like the record buying audience is back. The customers are back. Like the consumers are back. Yeah. But you don't hear as much, or at least I don't come across as much about like the industry behind it, the manufacturing behind it. But that's like, to me, that's even more interesting because one could maybe argue that like without new machines, we wouldn't have records in Target or Walmart in 2026 or something. Yeah. Maybe good or bad, I don't know. but I think that those things are directly related for sure.
Well, vinyl is an industry that's struggled to figure out an equilibrium for, I don't know, the last 20, 30 years, right? Like in the early 2000s, there were only a few plants, but the demand was keeping up with it just fine. And then 2007, 2008, which is when people think about the vinyl resurgence and record store day.
I was going to say it's when record store day comes out.
Totally is. And then it was really lopsided. More and more, month after month, it felt like things were just getting progressively worse. There was a fixed amount of equipment and a fixed number of plants, and the demand had just far surpassed it. So, you know, a record could take, 100 units could take like 6 months.
I remember the days of sending, honestly, probably you a bunch of money and then not seeing a record for sometimes 13, 14 months.
It was a bummer jam, for sure. Yeah, a real life bummer jam. That problem has largely gone away. Yeah. Because new plants like Precision started, and we're making now like 55,000 records a day. Like that's how much it's changed.
That's a big operation, yeah.
There's about 50 record plants in North America. For a while, it felt like it was keeping up. And then COVID happened and scrambled everything all over again and like turbojetted the demand. And again, the industry was in the same situation. There's not enough plants. Records are taking a year. We were taking 4 or 5 months instead of 12, 13, but I heard those stories all the time. Yeah. And now after COVID, things have kind of like settled down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe the floor had risen from the way it was.
Yep.
But the demand was not as such where like anyone with a pulse and a record, press was able to just fill the day with orders. Now the talk is, are there too many of us, Like I say, like vinyl has, in fits and starts been trying to figure out the right
Like equilibrium
between like demand and supply.
Yeah.
Vinyl is still increasing in popularity, but not to the extent that, it needs new plants and new equipment. So if you're going to start a plant now, you should have a very particular niche in mind. Okay, staying on the track of records that I had some small hand in, and also just talking about punk and hardcore records, is this Cursed LP. We made this record with a label called Goodfellow that was run by Chris, who was the singer of Chokehold. I love Chris Callahan's work, and I was especially a big fan of Left 4 Dead. So the fact that we got to work on this record was really special for me too. And it was the first time I met Chris Callahan, who I understand is on an episode.
That's right.
So, shout out to Chris. Like, really, like, such a sweet and genuine dude. Like, no attitude, So,
Yeah.
like, getting to work on this LP was very cool.
Considering how many bands Chris has been in and how many great records he's put out, you'd think he would have an ego, but no, he's very down to earth.
Incredibly. Yeah. He should have an ego, but somehow he doesn't. So, this is a UK pressing of Gina X Performance. This has a song on it called No GDM, which is one of my favorite songs ever. And I was desperately searching for this LP before I knew what Discogs was. And eventually, a record trader friend of mine found it for me. It has a very kind of like sleazy sort of sound to it. This is sort of a cross between like disco, new wave, but like the vocals have very much like a punk kind of like sneer to it. The song No GDM is an homage to an author and like gay icon Quentin Crisp. This is definitely has this kind of like queer disco kind of sound, is very cool. And by the time that I finally got a copy, I'd also found the 45. I wouldn't call myself like a vinyl collector, capital V, like you're not going to see anything where it's like, oh, check out this like SSD controlled test pressing that I found, that was found in an attic in Boston.
As I mentioned to you, you were a little apprehensive about doing this when I first reached out to you because you're like, I'm not really a collector.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't care. I want to talk to music fans who buy records. Like, it doesn't matter to me if you only buy reissues or you only buy first presses. I think just what's interesting to me and for this format is music fans and people who have interesting stories and interesting tastes.
Yeah.
And people who can talk about it. So that led me to you.
I feel like I'm more of like a music collector that buys vinyl.
Right. Do you also buy CDs or any other format?
No, vinyl is my format.
Okay.
Yeah, but I would say mostly like new vinyl. And I think it's for a couple of reasons. I'm always searching for new music, and then I find something, I love it, and I'm like burdened with like the deep impulse to buy it and have it now. And for me, having it means owning it on vinyl. That to me is like the true document of the music. I also don't shop for like vintage clothes either, like, and I think it's the same thing. Like, I don't maybe have that patience to go searching for holy grails. And I have like obviously tons of respect for that record collecting culture, but I think it's partly that, and also like I find myself, like I was saying, like searching for new music a lot.
Yeah.
And so the things that I buy tend to, be available that way.
Okay, so how are you going about finding new releases?
I didn't grow up with an older sibling that showed me the way.
Yeah.
And so I always kind of had to find things myself. We'll see if friends agree with me or not, but like I feel like I typically was the person showing music as opposed to being shown.
You're the tastemaker of your group, right? You can say it. You're allowed to say it.
We'll see if people agree or not, right? There's this one retailer in particular that comes to mind called Boomcat, which is like a distro and a web store. And they make their own editions too, so it's also kind of a label. But I also look at other record stores like Audiopile in Vancouver, Listen Records, I believe from Edmonton, and like Apple Music, honestly. Like I stalk people who I feel like have good taste and discover things that way. So I'm always peeking and prying around the corner. at
Like
what
to
other
see
people are
what someone's listening to right now?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So I
interesting.
follow a lot of people who have no idea who I
Yeah.
am. Also, I think record stores like Emissions and Sorry State are...
Sorry
ones I
State does a
typically go to.
really good like weekly newsletter
I love that newsletter.
of
Yeah.
like new releases. And
their
of course
record
it's
of the
mostly
week.
punk and it's mostly hardcore.
Yeah.
But not exclusively. I was fortunate enough to live
yeah.
like right around the corner from
You're a
Audiophile
Vancouver
for
guy.
like 11 or 12 years or whatever. And so I was in there all the time. I can definitely tell you just from like shopping there that they often play ambient and experimental music like in the store, which is like not a genre that I chase by any means.
Yeah.
Or even really know that much about. So I'd love to hear more about that. But being in the store is like, what the fuck is this? Like, what are they playing in here? But,
Right.
but that's because we come from different worlds, right? But
Yeah.
just a quick interruption. I want to remind you that if you're enjoying this interview, there's an extended cut on my Patreon with an extra 12 minutes. It's ad-free, and I always post my videos there before I post them on YouTube. Membership starts at just $2 a month, and it automatically includes you to win cool records like this Japanese Man Machine by Kraftwerk or Karma by Pharoah Sanders. First presses. $2. Come on, back to it. If Brian Eno is like the top dog in the ambient world, who's number 2?
Oh, that's a great question. I love Werko S. I also love Finesse. He put out a record that a lot of people cite called Endless Summer. It has this almost surfy Beach Boys kind of element. He is a guitarist, but also it's clearly like heavily manipulated by effects and also like noisier textures. But actually, his follow-up to that called Venice is by far my favorite of his.
So, in your opinion, there's still classic records being made in this genre?
As I said, I'm always searching for new music.
Yeah.
It's kind of my thing. Because I sort of like to feel like I understand where the musical conversation is at now and where it's going. I appreciate the history of it. And there's like other artists from Brian Eno's era, like, what's her name? Laurie Spiegel, who have like highly influential records from that time period. But yeah, I'm just more focused on like, where is music going? Where is sound going? Give me some ideas and some sounds that I've never heard before, which is why I tend to like listen to a lot of newer stuff.
Yeah, I love that.
This is a picture disc pressing, one of the few picture discs I own, of probably my favorite Japanese hardcore band, Stalin. And this album is called Mushi. You know, there's some like albums that like transcend the genre, you know?
Yeah.
Like the songwriting has such like depth to it that you feel like they could do anything. There's one song in particular, 365, I think it's called, which sort of sounds like a Japanese hardcore take on Motorhead. So
Sounds amazing.
yeah, that's my favorite song on this record, but this is classic for me.
How was shopping in Japan?
Great. Actually, that right there is a Japanese record store called Kankyo, which is one of the few ambient and experimental record stores, like stores that like focus on it almost
Yeah.
exclusively. When you go in, it felt like a very Japanese experience because you have to take your shoes off.
For the record store?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they give you slippers.
Amazing.
But the slippers are small, so my foot is like half in it, and I'm like hobbling through the space, and it's a pretty small area, and you're like sort of crouched a lot, like trying to look through the bins and stuff. So anyway, but yeah, pretty memorable.
That's adorable.
Experience. I was talking to someone at work actually about a comment that Werko S made. I think he said something like he doesn't like the term ambient because he doesn't like the concept that there is this capitalist music being used for productivity. Like the idea that that's what he's making is like, that's like anathema to him.
Music to work to, right?
Yeah, like just like wallpaper music, you know, productivity music. And so that's another reason why I like to think of like ambient experimental as being something apart from that. This record, this is an artist named Beatrice Dillon. And this is a pretty conceptual record. Every song on the LP is 150 BPM. And the music still from track to track sounds faster or slower depending on the drum programming. It also comes in this really cool like orange PVC sleeve that tints the color of the jacket underneath. So this is actually like my wallpaper at work.
Is it really?
Yeah, it has been for years. So. I love this. She put out another great record in 2025 called Basho, which I don't have, but I follow her wherever she goes. Not in the Gary Wilson sense.
Okay, so Paul, one of the questions I like to ask people on the show is about their Sunday morning coffee record. And it is Sunday right now, and we're drinking coffee. But I feel like a lot of the records that you just showed me are like really good contenders for sort of morning coffee records, right?
True.
So let's flip it. I want to ask you what your pump up record is. Let's say you're going to leave the house, you're going to go to a show, you got like an hour to kill at home, you want to like pump yourself up. What do you put on?
It's a hardcore record from a couple years ago. The band is called Fairy Tale. It's this record I've been listening to quite a bit. It came out, I think, in 2023. It's kind of like a D-beat record, but it has a very blown out sound. Her voice is also like a little sweet in parts, like she yells more than screams. And it just makes for a great contrast of sounds on this record. And the drum performance is like fucking outstanding.
Yeah, that'll bring me into any hardcore record. It's like, how good is the drummer?
Yeah.
If the drummer's
sure.
just okay, I might not be interested. But if the drummer's good, I'm in.
Yeah, this should do it for you then.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
A lot of people are starting their journey for the first time with physical media. I'm curious if you have any advice for the younger generation who are just starting out buying records.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty simple advice, which is don't get in over your head because you feel like, you know, you have to find the perfect way into the world. There's this conference called Making Vinyl that happens every year. And I remember one where Steve Sheldon, who used to be the president of Rainbow Records, which is a plant that Samo pressed with, but that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, I remember Rainbow.
Yeah, they were around for like 70 some odd years before they closed. But I always just think about a quote that he gave when he was being asked by someone in the audience at this panel discussion. You know, he was getting grilled by someone from like some audiophile magazine, to be like, how do you feel about the work that you put in, the blood, sweat, and tears into making vinyl? And people cheapen the experience by using like Crosley turntables and stuff. And his response was perfect, which was like, who gives a shit? I mean, like, why is there gatekeeping around any vinyl record culture? Like, it should be opened up to more people. Buy that Crosley turntable, buy some potentially overpriced records at, a big box store, like, just like find your way in. And then if you want to go a step deeper, you can. But yeah, the important thing is to have it continue to be broad. Like, something I think about with vinyl a lot actually is how it still managed to like maintain its sense of like history and have such a place in like subculture, like even with like punk and hardcore. It's never really lost its allure. As many times as we've made, Disney soundtracks on vinyl and everything else, where 20 years ago you'd be like, there's no vinyl audience for this, Yeah. But so like as mainstream as it's got, it still has that like spark to it. So I think more than it used to be, it's for everyone. Digital and physical music, they can accompany each other. It's not, doesn't need to be like a war of the worlds, right? Yeah. I mean, I listen to a lot of music digitally. It helps me figure out what I want to buy on vinyl. Okay, well, Paul, thank you for having me over. Thank you for showing me around. And I got a lot of research here for some ambient stuff. Yeah, go for it, man. That was a lot of fun. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Thanks, cool. All right, welcome back. So what did you think? I can safely say that I've never met anybody who's that into both ambient and hardcore punk. It's quite a mix, but I love to see it. And if you're still here watching, I'd really appreciate it if you could like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, do all that kind of stuff. And even better, consider joining Patreon. Okay, thank you. And I'll see you next time.